All right, welcome back, GIS crew. Today we're going to talk about select by attributes. I did give you a homework assignment, so you might want to have this handy as we go through this because, like last time, I am going to cover the answers to the homework in this video. So I sent you just one file today in the select by attributes geodatabase, the Silverbow owner parcel. This is cadastral data for Silverbow County. If you're not familiar with cadastral data, this is a public file that includes information on all the parcels owned in Silverbow County. So we're going to use that today to look at querying by attributes instead of by location. So under your selection menu, last time we looked at select by location. Today we're going to look at select by attributes. So you can go ahead and open that up. There's two different ways to look at select by attributes. I'll show you the other way here in just a moment. But this method has a couple of other options in it. If I had anything else in my map, I'd be able to select which parcel I wanted to do the select by attributes from. But since I only have Silverbow owner parcel, that's the only one in here. And notice it's checked, only show selectable layers in this list. If I had other layers in here that I had set to non-selectable, that would prevent me from showing them in this list. So we still have the four selection methods I discussed last time. Four selection methods: create a new selection, add to current selection, remove from current selection, and select from current selection. They work the same way. Make sure you're set on create a new selection for now. Also pay attention to number 5 on your homework, the four selection methods. What you see under here is all of the field headings in the attribute table. So I'm going to open the attribute table up here. We've got FID, shape, parcel ID, county CD, etc. showing up here. Now you'll notice they're in the order that they're displayed across the top of the heading here, but this says object ID instead of FID. We discussed in class using field aliases and field names for these column headings. Right now, we're viewing this by name instead of by alias, and your ID is showing here as alias instead of ID. So this is in the field properties. I right-clicked and went down to properties to see where this is showing up. But this is the only heading, I believe, in all of these columns that has a different name from the alias. You can change the alias if you want to. We can call this whatever you want to call it here and set that. So now it's still displaying object ID, but there's a little drop arrow right here, little tiny arrow. If you click on that, you can change that to show field aliases instead of field names. So if you have set your attribute table up to have different names in here or different aliases, because again, the alias allows you to change it. You're very limited when you create these fields in how many characters you can use in the name, but you have a little more space to type in the alias and gives you a chance to be more descriptive. So a lot of people like to put this alias in here and use that. If you are one of those people and you want to have that in your list, you can just pay attention to which one you're viewing it by. Now the other option here is we're using the original order. That means it's showing it in the order that it appears through the attribute table. We can sort it ascending so that it's alphabetical, or we can sort it descending so that it's reverse alphabetical. Okay? I personally like to default use the original order. Whatever works for you, just be aware that that exists. So you can see everything is in here that's in the attribute table. Now these are our operators for querying this data. These are mathematical operations here: equal, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to. So this is the equivalent of that little icon with the underscore underneath that. Less than or equal to. And this one is not equal to. So this is the equal sign with the dash through it. These are our characters for querying data with multiple queries. We can say we want 2 different queries. We want to say, or even 3, 4, 5, you're not really limited, but these are your Boolean characters for querying data. I'm going to pull this figure up here. This is from your textbook. These are Boolean operators. Question number 3. How do you use multiple queries in your homework? Boolean operators allow you to do multiple queries. So you need to pay attention to how this actually works, because and or are kind of the opposite of how you think of them when you're having a conversation. When you say in a query that you want it to meet this criteria and this criteria, it has to meet both criteria at the same time. So and means it must meet both criteria A and B. Or is just the opposite. It can meet criteria A or it can meet criteria B. We're not going to talk about XOR because that's strictly for raster analysis, but be aware that there is this analysis where you can choose if it meets both criteria, you remove that criteria from the selection. You also have the not selection that says it must meet this criteria, but not this criteria. Okay, I hope that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, give me a call or an email and we can talk through it. So those are your like, and, or, and not Boolean operators or Boolean characters. This little parenthesis, open and close parenthesis, is for subqueries within a geodatabase only. We will use a subquery, and I'll explain how they work, but we'll get to that here in just a minute. These are your 2 wildcard characters. These are really important characters, and we're going to use these as we do a couple of queries and you can understand them. But for now, questions number 1 and number 2, pay attention to this. This underscore character, just an underscore, is your single wildcard character. That means if I want to query my data and I don't know what a single character is somewhere in the text, I can replace it with that underscore and it'll grab anything that meets that character. This one, the percentage sign, will grab any string of characters. It'll grab multiple characters. It doesn't matter whether it's 1 or 50. It'll grab a whole string of characters that are unknown that you haven't defined. Null, we don't have any null data in this, so I'm not going to be able to show you null, but basically the null operator allows you to say, I want to look at data that is or is not null. Null is always preceded by is or is not. I'm not even going to get into this character. We can just ignore that one for now. But as I start writing queries, these will show up and we'll talk through these different characters down here. But for now, get unique values. You've seen this in the attribute table, or not in the attribute table, when we're looking at symbology or looking at labeling things, and you're trying to get the unique values, that's going to grab every unique value from the list of attributes. So if I said I want to look at, let's say, the tax year, there's more than one tax year in here. I want to know how many unique values are in the tax year. I'd select tax year and then say get unique values. It tells me 0 and 2015. So let's see, look at townships. How many unique values are there in the townships? This is the list of unique townships that are included in all of this data. Okay, so let's go in and actually write a query so that you can understand how these work. First, let's actually query, this is going to jump backwards a little bit. Let's query this data based on area. We know we've got a lot of different areas in here. So somewhere in the attribute table, there's going to be an area, shape area. This isn't descriptive enough to tell me what the units are on this. So I'm going to close my attribute table and go in and look at my properties to see what my units are. So remember, on your source tab, your units are always here under the description of the coordinate system. So we now know we're in meters. What if I want to operate in something other than meters? I know that my area here is in square meters, but we have learned in the past how to add a new field and do some basic calculations on that. So I'm going to add a new field I'm going to make it a double because I want to have plenty of text. I'm going to call it square miles and say okay. Oh, it doesn't like the period, so it's going to replace it with an underscore. All right, so now we do have null values. I'm just going to select some of these and run this first calculation so that we have a null here in some of these. It's the ones I've highlighted is where it's going to do the calculation, and the ones that are not highlighted, it's not going to do the calculation. Okay, sorry guys, I paused the recording because I realized I forgot to look up the conversion from meters to miles. So we've created this and we've selected these items. Now what I want to do from those that are selected, I'm going to run this calculation. We have talked before about the field calculator, but we never actually used it. So in this case, we're going to use it to do this calculation. Right-click, field calculator, and I want to multiply. I'm going to type this out. Shoot. Sorry. I want to type this out so that it says shape area. I find that in my list, double click on it. What it's saying is square miles equals shape area. And if I multiply that shape area times the conversion from square meters to square miles, it's going to change this number only in the ones I've highlighted. So it's calculated square miles here. We'll come back and do the entire list, but this gives me the chance to show you the null operator. So it's running that field calculator. You can do all sorts of mathematical calculations on here, on all of this. You can write whatever code you want. This is essentially what we're about to do, is start writing some really simple code for querying the data. So we'll leave that alone for now. The other way to open select by attributes is here in your attribute table. Go up here to table options and open it up. We can open select by attributes, and this is only going to open it for this file, only for the cadastral data here. So you'll see we don't have that drop menu of using other files because we're opening it directly from the attribute table for this file. So I already wrote an expression here. What I want to point out is how these expressions work. We just created some null data here. So let's look at the null expression first, and then we'll come back to it. So we know square miles is where we want to select from, square miles, and I'm going to clear my selection so you can see this happen. I want to say square miles is or is not null. Is null is going to select everything that we did not just run that calculation on. Is not null is going to select everything that we did run the calculation on. So this is how the null value works, okay? I'm going to close that out, and this time clear my selection and run that calculation again, the field calculator, on everything. So if I don't have anything selected, it's going to run that entire column. Then we'll have square miles to work from for some of these expressions. Okay, so that got them all. So let's start writing expressions. In select by attribute, close that out. Let's take a look at how many parcels are greater than 10,000 square meters. Remember, shape area is in square meters. So shape area, how many are greater than 10,000? So we've got 4,710 that are greater than 10,000. Okay? How many parcels are less than 10 meters? So we can leave shape area and this time say less than 10. Now I want to point out, because we're doing a numeric expression here, we don't have to put any quotations on this. This is a numeric calculation. When we start talking about querying by text, we're going to have to put quotations on this. So let's apply that and see how many there are. 18. 18 are less than 10 square meters. So how many parcels are greater than 2 acres? Oh, well, I guess we should do 2 miles instead, and since we did a calculation on miles instead of acres. So this time I want to go into square miles. Greater than 2. Just 2. There are only 2 that are greater than 2 square miles. And if we zoom out, we can see what they are. It looks like there's a creek bed running through, or it's probably a road bed. There's a road, more than likely owned by the city, running through there that is a continuous unit larger than 2 square miles. So let's look at the greater than or equal to. I'm going to do that on the shape area. 2 acres, because I don't know how many. I don't actually know how many. I haven't run this expression. So let's see how many of these parcels are greater than or equal to 200 meters. 21,776 are greater than or equal to 200 square meters. So I actually don't know if there are any that are exactly 200. Let's see. That's the difference between this expression where we don't have the equal sign. It's simply greater than 200. 21,776. Looks like there is nothing that is exactly 200 square meters, but if there was, we would see a different number here. So this actually works alphabetically as well. Clear this expression. But because we're going to use an alpha character, we need to actually put quotations on this. So let's see. Owner city greater than, let's say, the letter C. We want any city that starts with an alphanumeric character larger than C or higher in the alphabet than C. So because we're going to use a character, we have to put a quotation on it. Oh, a single quotation, not a double. Now, we have down here all these different options. Verify is going to become a good friend. Verify will tell you whether or not your expression is written properly. It was successfully verified. It doesn't tell me what the results are. If it works properly but does not return any results, it'll tell you that in that little verify. Clear also allows you to clear that. I'll start using the clear button. You can save your expression. If you write a big complicated expression, if you happen to be good in Python or JavaScript, you can write a big long expression and you can load it, or you can save it. Help, I'm running 10.5, so it's going to pull up the 10.5 help menu, but if you're running 10.7, it's going to pull up 10.7 for you. But help will bring up some information here. I think this is actually what I emailed to you as writing a query expression, but that'll pull that up for you. So let's apply that greater than C. This will be all of the owner cities that are larger or higher alphabetically than C. So owner city, Butte will not appear in this list because C is lower alphabetically, or I mean, because B is lower alphabetically than C. Okay. So we can also go back and, as I pointed out last time, we can use these different selection methods, these 4 different selection methods, to remove from the list, to add to the list, or to select from within the list. So we can select within this and say, select from the current selection only those that are greater than, let's make it F. So we're looking at C through F, or D through F really, because we didn't say equal to C. See what that picks up. 3,000, the owner city. Oh no, I said greater than F. Okay, so I selected from those, I excluded everything below. All right, so pay attention to what selection method you're using. When I change this, I always tend to get myself in trouble because I come back the next time and can't understand why my selection's being goofy. I want to create a new selection pretty much always. but I'm going to clear that expression and get it out of there so I can write a new one. So how would you find out how many landowners live outside of the state of Montana? I'm going to clear this out. That's where you use this not equal to expression. So let's see how many owner state is not equal to the state of Montana. Now, we're going to put that quotation on because we're saying Montana. Apply that. 2,741 owners outside of the state of Montana own property in Silver Bow County. Okay. So we can use the expression not in a similar way here. Sorry, I keep getting interrupted. Trying to work from home is always an adventure. So we're going to use the expression not in a different way. What we want to say here is the owner state is not equal to Montana. And I know this is a little bit difficult to read, but we need to put not at the beginning. So we're saying the owner state is not equal to Montana, and it should return the exact same results, 2,741. So you can use the not expression, but you need to be aware of what you're saying and how you're writing this. So if we try and put the not here, it's not going to like that expression. It doesn't like how you wrote it out. And these are just the JavaScript rules and how this is written. So I'm going to clear my expression, and we can talk about using these Boolean operators to do a query. So let's write a combined expression with the Boolean operators. Let's say the owner state is equal to Montana, and the owner city is not Butte. Notice I am writing in all caps here. I'll show you why I'm doing that as we get into querying by names and such, but effectively, the characters as they appear in here have to appear in here. It's not going to convert lowercase to capital. If you're querying it incorrectly, it's going to kick back 0 results. So let's verify that it works, and let's apply it. So what we've said here is somebody who lives in Montana but does not live in Butte. There are 2,897 property owners living outside of Butte that own property in Silver Bow County. Okay. So remember from our Boolean characters that what we just asked it was to look at the and character that includes both of these criteria. So if we look at the or character, we can collect anything that's any owners that live in Montana and live in Butte, but we use the or character so that it'll meet both of those criteria. So I'm going to show you the difference between those two. Instead of and, let's use or. And instead of 2,900 some, now we've got 22,000. Looks like everybody. So I grabbed the whole list by using the or operator instead of the and operator, because I'm effectively placing all of this criteria in my query. But that's the difference between the and the or. So you're getting a much larger selection with the or because you're saying it can meet either criteria, whereas the and selection only meets both of those criteria. Okay. Clear my expression. So now let's write an expression that selects between two different sizes. Let's do shape area less than 5,000. No quotation mark because again, we're doing a mathematical query, or shape area greater than 10,000. So we've selected 21,735 parcels that meet those two criteria. One or the other of those two criteria, I mean. So let's try the AND function on that instead, see what the difference is. Nothing. None of the parcels meet this criteria. They're not less than 5,000 or greater than 10,000, which makes perfect sense. They can't be both small and large at the same time. Okay, so that's how the Boolean functions work. At least those Boolean functions. I'm going to clear that out. Like is for alphabetical characters. So we're going to take a look at like. And we're going to use the wildcards when we do like. So let's look at the name Deborah. It's a fairly common name. So let's see, owner name like, because our owner names are all going to be, did I miss it? They're all going to be alphabetical. So we want to use the like character here. Owner name like Deborah. Remember to use that single quotation. Let's say Deborah. Okay, I'm going to verify that. The expression verified successfully, but no records were returned. Okay, that means one of two things. Either nothing exactly meets DEBRA in that capital, in that with those lowercase letters, or we need to use a wildcard before or after Deborah to see what comes up. So let's try DEBRA and see if it was a matter of using lowercase. No records were returned. So there is no Deborah in here that is just Deborah. So let's use the wildcard characters. It's likely to be more than one character showing up before Deborah. So let's use the percentage sign. See if there's anything before Deborah. So it looks like it's going to return some records. 12 records. So let's look at how those came back. Deborah Thatcher, but the last name is first. So Thatcher has been picked up by that percentage sign. Everything before Deborah has been picked up by that percentage sign. But look, everything after Deborah is just the end. It ends at Deborah. So let's see if we put that percentage sign after Deborah, if we pick up any more Deborahs. Looks like we picked up quite a few more Deborahs because they have an initial or another name after. So that percentage sign is picking up anything before Deborah and anything after Deborah. So let's look at without the percentage sign at the front. We didn't get anything without the percentage sign at the front. So Deborah doesn't ever start the expression. Let's see if there is a Deborah with a single character afterwards. We use that single underscore. Okay, we've got one, and that single character happens to be a comma. All right, so maybe Deborah isn't spelled correctly. We're looking for a different type of Deborah. We're looking for Debbie. We're looking for Deborah spelled Boroughh, I think it is. Anyway, we're looking for Deb. So we can shorten this by saying anybody with the name that meets the criteria DEB. We don't know exactly who it is. 209. So here we go, Deborah, Debbie. Oh, picked up a couple debtors too, instead of Deborah, but this is how you can use your query expressions and use these wildcards to take a look at this. So let's look at a different type of name. I'll use my name. Let's do MAR. Nothing that ends in MAR. Let's see if there's anything with a single character afterwards. Oh, quite a few, 134, because there's a lot of Marys out there and a lot of Marks. You know, I don't think I need to run through this again on the video. You guys can probably go back through the Deb and Deborah and whatnot, but you have a whole lot of options for how you can query your data and what data is in here. Whatever data you have in your attribute table, this is a great way to ask a question of your data and get an answer. So the two different types of queries we've covered so far, hint, hint, number 4, the two different types of queries we've looked at is querying by attributes and querying by spatial location. So that's query by attributes and querying by location. So last week we looked at these different mine types and where they were in association with the streams in Silver County. This is a query you cannot do through select by attributes because it doesn't have any spatial location, doesn't have any way to look at where those streams are in relativity to or where the mines are in relation to the streams. But it can tell you all about the data that's inside that attribute table. You can query this data using select by attributes. Oh, I guess I do want to show you one more thing. Let's see if I can use this one. You can do math here as well. So let's see. That one's not going to work very well. So let's go back into Silverbow County and look at select by attributes. So let's say I don't have a great idea for what to do with this, but we want to know something about the square miles. And oh, let's do this. Let's figure out how much an area is worth. So let's see what the total area is. Let's do shape area divided, or total value divided by shape area. I think there's a value in here somewhere. Total value, let's do that. So let's see, divided by, let's do it by square miles. Oh, why isn't that working? Oh, because I've got to give it something to query by, sorry. Total value divided by square miles is, let's see where it's greater than or equal to 2. I don't really know what that's going to return. Oh, that's pretty big. So let's go greater than or equal to 10. Still pretty big. Wow. Land has pretty good value in Silverbow County. All right. Okay, well, if you're watching this number down here, as I am, you can see that that one changed a little bit, but what we're really looking for is where the total value divided by the square miles is greater than 10,000. So it's actually allowing you to do the math here and return a query. Okay, so I think that's it for select by attributes. If you have any questions, Chapter 8 is a tremendous read on queries. They combined discussing both select by attributes and select by location in that chapter. I think it's really well written. If you do not have access to that chapter, I will email it to you, but I am working with the world's slowest scanner here at home, so I will get that to you later. It just takes me a while to scan those pages one by one. And the email I'm sending you with this link is going to be pretty big to begin with. So I will send you Chapter 8. You do not need to read that unless you want clarification on something, or you can email me if you want clarification on something. I have Zoomed with somebody who did not have a microphone or a camera. That's totally fine. There's a chat feature. If you have questions and you want to go over something with me, you don't have to be able to talk to me to have this Zoom meeting. So don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or concerns. All right, that's it for now. Hang in there, guys, and stay safe.